I feel like we've done a good job of, hey, you're taking care of this when it comes to our finances, and I'm taking care of that. But do we check in on like the mental capacity of it? And I wonder, how many other couples, like, do they talk about this? Like just the mental load of managing a household's finances has on a person. Welcome to Money Dates, the podcast that makes money conversations with your partner feel a little less taboo. I'm Natalie Slagle, a certified financial planner, and I'm joined by my husband and business partner, Dan Slagle, also a certified financial planner. Say hi, Dan.
Hello.
In each episode, we'll share honest stories and practical tips to help you and your partner feel more connected and confident on your financial journey. So grab your drink, get comfortable, and join us for our Money Dates.
Episode number 2. We officially did it.
We did it. We're here. We've gotten through the first one. And there was a topic that came up, not a topic, but a phrase that made me think of this next conversation.
What was the phrase?
Calling you my passenger princess of finances.
You said that. You said that in the last episode?
Yeah. Did you not catch that?
No, I wasn't sure if it was in the episode or if it was like at home in conversation.
Nope, it was in the episode. Today's topic that I want to talk to you about is the mental load of managing money.
Okay.
There's been a lot of discussions, I feel like, on just like the mental load of things, right?
Mm.
Like right now, I'm working on redesigning the office. And there's a rug and a rug pad downstairs in our entryway, which I know probably not like annoys you because we talked about, but like you like to have things like put where they need to be anyways. But I'm like, well, there's a rug. And the reason why it's not in the office yet is because I have to move furniture, and I can't move furniture until I do this, and I can't do that until I do that. Like, to me, that's mental load. Like, And so there's the things we have to do to take care of our household finances, which I think it's important to list those out, right? But is it taking a lot of your brain capacity, like your brain space? Does it feel like a mental load to you?
No.
Great.
No, it doesn't. Like, I feel like where you're going with this is like the conversation around like the term primary parent and like primary financial person in the household. So like not obviously, but a lot of households will separate responsibilities.
Yeah.
To make life easier, to know like this person has got this camp, and if they need help, they'll bring the other person in. So I feel like maybe you're going there with this conversation.
Wherever we want to take it is where we can go. I guess primary parent, I feel like that's a icky term in my world. And like you and I have had talks about like, there's no such thing as a primary parent in our household. Like we got to do whatever we can to make sure one person doesn't feel that way. But there is this sense of delegation, and we have delegated different things, even about our household finances, on who takes care of what. And I feel like we've done a good job of, hey, you're taking care of this when it comes to our finances, and I'm taking care of that. But do we check in on like the mental capacity of it? And I wonder, how many other couples, like, do they talk about this? Like just the mental load of managing a household's finances has on a person.
Yeah, I feel like we've had one conversation specifically around this, and I feel like it was maybe 3 or 4 years ago. If you recall, like the conversation we had about like, I feel like you were at a point where it was just, there was too much on your plate from a like budgeting standpoint, and the feelings you got around that when you were the one keeping track of the expenses. And I didn't really have a sense of what was being spent like day to day. I kind of knew like our parameters that we had set. But when you're in like day-to-day spending, you don't think twice about it, right? But when you're the one who actually like pulls up the credit card transaction statement and enters the expenses into like the budgeting app, you're the one who sees what's going on and who sees like the amount you've allotted for expenses like start to dwindle down. And I think at that point in that conversation we had, like you were having a tough time with that added role on top of what you were already doing.
You're right. We did make that change. And that was really helpful because one of us has to be in charge of just like making sure we're not spending too much money. And that person also has to be in charge of communicating that, which to me, that is a mental load as well. Like, hey, the way you and I have set up our finances is we've got like our bills account that's on auto and we have a spending account, which I should make a plug for we have a cash flow worksheet that kind of explains and outlines how Dan and I operate our credit cards, our bank accounts, and it's really, really helpful for our clients. And even people who aren't clients really, really enjoy it. So I think we should put those in the show notes, but it outlines exactly how we operate. And regardless, we have our bills account, and that's on auto. It's like, we don't need to track that because we know what's happening. It's daycare, auto loan, insurances, like that just keeps happening. It's the variable spending that's just kind of a drag. It's so painful to track that. It's different every month. You and I have set up parameters, which are helpful. But what ends up happening every month for us is we try to spend about $3,000 a month in that bucket. And I think what was happening is because I'm so analytical, I was like, okay, it's the 15th of the month. We should be around $1,500 of spending. But we've actually spent like $2,200 and we still have half the month left. If I'm doing the math right, now we have to spend at a smaller clip. And I just like hated having that conversation. Like I hated bringing that up. And to me, that's a mental load, not just like the doing of paying off the credit card, making sure there's enough money. Those are really important. But just like the mental load of being like, hey, Dan, we shouldn't go out to eat as much in the next couple of weeks because it's really kind of making us go over these parameters we set for ourselves.
Yeah. I mean, it's exhausting, right? Like the communication around it, the feeling of being restricted in spending and almost feeling responsible, literally being responsible for sharing most of the time, not great news about like, hey, we're kind of off track of where we're spending. We need to reduce costs. And the other person isn't really involved at all in seeing the transactions. So back in like when we were going through this process, like my thought was, where are we spending all our money? Like we don't spend any money. And then you get like a little defensive, right?
Yeah.
So, which I think leads into maybe some disagreements or conflict when it comes to just managing day-to-day money as a household.
So one thing I will point out, and I'm glad we're having this conversation because you and I haven't talked about this, is I don't get any sort of like report from you. And I mean that in like a verbal report, like, hey, we did good. And I think I asked you earlier this year and I was like, hey, I'm the one who goes in and pays off the credit card. And sometimes I'm like, okay, well, we don't have as much money as we should. I'm like, what's happening here? And you're like, oh, we've kind of overspent the last few months. And I'm like, oh, okay. And that's that. And so like, and obviously we set things up so that if we overspend, we're okay. And we'll have a whole chat about that. But like, and maybe you know that you're like, we're fine. Like, it's okay if we spent $122 more this month. We always pay off our credit cards. But like, do you think that's missing in our household management,
like
financial
for
management?
me to have more communication around like where we're at, like throughout the course of a month? Maybe, but in all honesty, you also have the app.
I do.
Am I right? Like you can also track the spending and pull it up.
I remember
with a click, like on your phone, you could pull up the same thing I'm looking at.
That's so true. And I remember when I was tracking the spending, I think I said that to you and I thought that too. Like Dan had like, this is to get rid of that conversation. So we don't have to be nitpicky. We could just go to the app and be like, oh, those are the numbers. You're right. I should look at it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's back up, because what I think was most important a few years ago when we were going through this exercise of you feeling very like restricted with spending, you shared in the last episode, sometimes like money can feel like overwhelming for you. I think that's when you called me the passenger princess. Okay, it's coming together now. So what we did at that time was we said, okay, well, why don't we change? Like, who's doing what? Like, let's swap some roles here, switch responsibilities. So the other partner gets to be involved in what's going on, whether it's from the day-to-day expenses or like maybe it's the overall cash flow conversation. For us specifically, it was about tracking expenses.
Yeah.
Right. So like once I took that over, I think you felt an enormous sense of relief.
I did.
You did.
Yeah.
And you were able to focus your time elsewhere. And like from a financial standpoint, not much has changed since then, right? Like money is still there. Like savings are still there. Like nothing major, like nothing negative happened from like doing this exercise. And we've just kept it because it works for us.
Mm-hmm. Well, when you say like nothing negative has happened, like what could have happened that is negative, that would have been negative?
I mean, there's so many different scenarios of what could happen. I don't know why this like pops in my head, but I could have easily been like after a month, like, screw this, I'm not doing this. This sucks. And then you could have been like, well, I'm not doing it either. And then no one's keeping track of expenses. I'm not saying that is like likely to happen, but it could happen. Like that could be one of the worst case scenarios. Obviously there's much worse, but
yeah,
that to me like sticks out.
It's interesting because I think about our clients, and some clients, they do what we do and they keep track of everything. They have it all organized. They can get us that data. And some clients don't. And the ones that don't, some of them should be. Honestly, I think the parameters would help them. And some of them, like, they make so much and they spend so little that it's like the opposite problem is happening. They're having too much cash accumulate in their accounts. And then we're like, okay, let's be a little bit more purposeful here. I think the way you and I have set up our, at least like cash flow and spending, is we keep things tight from a spending perspective so that we can save as much as possible. Because we've had so many conversations with our clients about like cash flow and just the philosophies around it. And I think about one conversation where a client, they're doing absolutely fine with the whole spending savings thing, but they're like, if I don't take it out of my bank account and I don't put it in my brokerage account, I am going to spend it.
Yeah.
So like what I'm thinking about, like what you were saying, or I guess what question I had asked you is like, well, what's the negative? If we were both like, you know what, we're not going to pay attention to this. We're just going to pay off the credit card every month. Hopefully there's enough in the bank account for it. And I think what would happen if we didn't pay attention is we wouldn't save as much.
Yeah, I think that could happen too.
That's just like the outcome of it. But there's so many other things happening with our finances, with couples' finances, our clients' finances, even outside of the budgeting. I think the budgeting is an easy, or not easy, I was gonna, like an easy thing to think about right away. But there's the investing side. You actually manage all of our, like, Dan and Natalie's investments, Fuse financial plannings, but like you're the investment person. So you're the one taking on all of that. That is a duty that I know you kind of like do throughout the workday, but like that's something someone in the household has to do and be responsible for. That's a task. There's like how much to put in your brokerage account, your retirement account, your 529 plan, your HSA. Like someone is making that decision. There's reimbursements. Oh, I hated this. So we depleted our HSAs. We don't contribute to them anymore. But remember, like you would always have to send me your medical expenses and I would have to do a distribution from the HSA. I just hated that.
Yeah. Why? Because it felt like your money.
That one did feel like my money. Ooh, Interesting. That should be another discussion. Man, look at all these discussions just popping out. What else? Oh, taxes. Who's filing the taxes in your household? Who's making quarterly tax payments if you have to? Who's keeping all of your tax data organized? There's just so much. Like there's even when I say it, I'm like getting kind of like, ugh.
Okay, so I see the point, like, of what you wanted to talk about. Like, it took me over halfway through the episode to get it. And I think so much I take for granted is you and I are really good communicators for the most part. And this is also our field. Like, this is our area of expertise, right? Like, I don't know, two software engineers aren't going to go home and maybe they might create like a program, but like they still need to work on their finances, right? Like that's still a huge part. Like everyone touches money every single day. And as a household, you need to make sure that you're making the right decisions. So whether there's a primary person or you split duties, there's still a lot that you need to take on. And I think the biggest thing you can do is have open communication around it.
Yeah.
Or I think that's why clients hire us.
Yeah.
Right? Like to have more of an unbiased opinion to make sure like you are getting dedicated time to talk about all these things rather than needing to carve out an hour on the weekend and sit down and review cash flow, investments, tax planning, insurance, our estate plan. Like who wants to do that for an hour or two on a weekend besides us?
I like doing our financial stuff, but sometimes I get burnt out of it, which by the way, maybe at some point we should hire financial planners because I think the thing that you talked about, the biggest thing here is open communication. And that also means you have to sit down with your partner and talk about a kind of hard thing to talk about. I think with most people, when you and I have hard conversations, or, one thing I like to do is to go to a coffee shop. Let's go have the hard conversation in public, because then we're not going to just go at it.
When you say in public, you're not sitting down at a coffee shop and there's someone sitting a foot next to you and you're just yelling out your financial information, right? Yes, exactly. I think some people take that to the extreme. You're in a public space having a conversation.
Yeah.
You're not holding remember that commercial back in the day where everyone had a number over their head? You're not doing that. You're not doing that in public. You're just being in a space where you're going to ask or act like you're in public. And maybe it works for us because you and I have had moments or conversations, even when we talk about money at home, that just feel tense.
Yeah.
And I feel just making it fun, making a day of it, not a day, but going out to breakfast. And then what we always used to do is go to get coffee, talk about it, and then go for a bike ride and go do something fun. And just you'll feel better about your finances and your relationship too.
Exactly. I like how you kind of pointed out we're really fortunate to both be experts in this realm. And I think that helps take off a layer of, I have to imagine there's some sort of kind of power dynamic in some couples too, because inevitably someone knows more than the other person about finances. That's just how it works. Someone knows a little bit more than the other person. Or at least this person knows kind of more what's going on from a cash flow perspective. And this person over here is keeping track of taxes and investments. I don't know. But I think that's another reason why having a third party to talk to can be nice, because it takes that power dynamic away. And it really helps just make sure everyone's being heard. We don't have that right now. We have a business coach, and I think that, that does kind of play into our personal finances a little bit. And having a business coach has been so nice. I was just thinking, are there things that do you feel your voice isn't getting heard when it comes to the financial decisions, on anything? Do you feel like that ever?
No, because I'm comfortable enough if something catches my eye or I have an opinion about something, I'll say it. And I'll speak my mind on it. And I think that, to go back to what you were saying earlier, I think that's when there's a power dynamic at play, I think that's what's missing, right? Is the confidence to have communication around your finances and also have another opinion added to what's going on, right? Like, so like the person who handles the finances, if we view them in this lens of this conversation as like the power or whatever, however we want to phrase it, but like,
yeah,
that person gets to make the decisions, and there's so many biases and blind spots that are not being accounted for. And I think the most important one that's not being accounted for is the other partner's input on a matter.
yeah. And feelings and comfort and insecurities and all of that. Yeah. I wish I would have used a different word, because now we're using the power person. But
let's change it. Let's find a new term. Like, that's terrible.
Okay.
It's not terrible, but we just need to find a new term.
I'm going to flip the script a little bit. So we have really good communication around our finances, right? Like, would you agree?
Yes.
I feel like I kind of present like, here's what I think we should do. And then you're like, yes or no. One thing that like we have to take ownership of is like saving for retirement. And so I feel like I'm the one who's like, this is what I think we should do. And this is what we are doing. I think like sometimes I just like go in and I do it. So I know the dynamic's different because you know everything when it comes to financial planning and retirement, all this stuff. But like sometimes I'm in this place where I'm like, I hope I'm making the right decisions for Dan and I and now our family. Like it almost feels like the person who does know, or the person who maybe knows more or who's making the decisions, I have some empathy for that person, because I'm like, there's a lot of responsibility you're taking on.
Yeah, absolutely.
And your family is depending on you to make the right decisions. Like, I think that's an important aspect of this as well. And so that person can feel like, oh, look at all this stress that I'm taking on of making these financial decisions. That's a mental load. And then you've got the other perspective of like, I might not know as much of the technical things. I might not be like the decision maker, but like my voice and my ideas and my fears and excitements still need to be at play here.
Yeah.
So this is hard.
It is hard. It's for sure hard. Money is hard. And then especially when you have two people involved. So what are your takeaways from this conversation? What are your biggest takeaways and like maybe some solutions to this conversation?
My takeaways are that I think the way you and I have things set up are really good. Maybe I should check that app more to see where we're at with our spending. I mean, solutions, I think solutions in regards to this is always evolving. Like it's the mental load. So I feel like you and I need to continue to check in with each other. Hey, like, how are you feeling about being the one to track our expenses? Does this feel like a valid use of your time? Like, is it worth it? Is it really benefiting us? I think asking each other these types of questions on an ongoing basis, more than once every 4 years, would be good.
Yeah,
what do you think?
I was just going to say the same thing. I think it's like my biggest takeaway is having open communication and checking in with whether it's the partner who is handling more of the finances, or if it's the person who is removed from the finances, if there's that dynamic at play. And even if both parties or partners are doing something financially related for the household, still have that check-in with each other. Because if you don't make dedicated time for it, you might be missing out on how money is impacting the other person.
Absolutely.
That's my biggest takeaway.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Dan. Appreciate the conversation.
Yeah. Thanks, Natalie. Hey, if you've enjoyed this episode and are looking for personalized financial guidance, schedule a free complimentary consultation using the link in the description below. Natalie and Dan Slagle are the founding partners of Fuse Financial Planning, a registered investment advisor. The information provided in this podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered investment advice or a recommendation to buy or sell any securities. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Advisory services are offered to clients or prospective clients where Fuse Financial Planning
and its representatives are properly licensed or exempt from licensure. For more information, including our disclosures, please visit our website at www.fusefinancial.com.